people talk about the Jewish vote. Is there a monolithic way Jews vote?
There was to elect Obama. He wouldn't be president if it wasn't for the Jewish vote. That's number one. Number two, are the Jews going to make the same mistake again after what this guy has done to attack our faith and attack Jews and attack Israel and put us in great jeopardy and put America in great jeopardy? If they're willing to play out their left-right labels instead of being Jews, then they're simply repeating 1938. You know, the German Jews thought they were German first and Jewish second, and that didn't help them either. So what is this land for peace and sanity? You know, we've been occupying this land for 5,000 years. We have a covenant with God. We have gone through millions and millions of Jews being slaughtered because of our faith. We're going to abandon all of that to do what? Talk about keeping somebody of color in the White House instead of somebody who is not competent? We're going for color versus competence? Has the Jew reached that level of insanity that they think will be so much liked on this kind of a basis instead of what are we doing not just for ourselves, but how are we going to save America? This guy is a danger. I am a Democrat my whole life. I never voted Republican until the last time, only because, not that I liked McCain, but because I was afraid of Obama, who's turned out to be much more dangerous and worse than I ever even dreamed of. How does this guy go to Cairo in 2009 and equate the Holocaust with Muslim humiliation? Is this guy insane? And where's the Jewish leadership keeping its mouth shut about it? You're going to equate the extermination of 6 to 7 million Jews and 1.5 million Jewish children with Muslim humiliation and then cowardly ignore 5-hour wars and 2 intifadas, all committed to killing the rest of the Jews? And you're equating the Holocaust with that? And where was our Jewish leadership keeping its mouth shut through all of this? Talk about adding insult to injury. And then here we have Obama violating Title 18 of U.S. Code that says you cannot give material support to terrorism. So what does he do? He gives $1.3 billion to Fatah that's in alliance with Hamas, in total violation of U.S. law, not to give material support to terrorists. Not only that, he's asking for another $500 million in the middle of our economic crisis. For what? His entire Middle East policy has been a total and complete disaster. He says, don't worry about Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Where did Hamas emerge from except Muslim Brotherhood? Here's Muslim Brotherhood not only taking over power, but demanding that we give them $1.3 billion to the military. Otherwise, they'll break the so-called peace treaty with Israel that's been going on for 30 years. Okay? And meanwhile, what do we talk about? They're putting 21 Americans on trial, including the son of the Ray LaHood. I mean, what is going on here? Nobody respects America at all on any level in any area of foreign policy because of what this guy is doing. Here he said, and Hillary said, oh, Mr. Assad of Syria, he's a reformer. We can trust this guy. Now that he's killed 7,500 of his own people, all of a sudden they're having second thoughts. What are we doing by going out of Iraq? And we're leaving it now to al-Qaeda to come back in. What has just happened now in Afghanistan? The whole thing is a total disaster. So what are we doing? Sitting and negotiating with the Taliban? The very people who want us dead? Every single country in the Middle East, whether it be Libya with al-Qaeda or the Yemen with al-Qaeda or Saudi Arabia that Obama has given now, $30-some billion worth of military equipment, more sophisticated than he's giving to Israel, while cutting funds for Israel in terms of missile defense. Everything this guy is doing, including, and the worst thing in the entire picture is allowing Iran to get its nukes. Iran is committed to not only Israel's destruction, but America's destruction. So you're going to give this mad, insane group of people who are only saying one thing out of their Quran, kill all infidels. Do the Jews understand what this means? It means not only Jews being murdered, but Christians. Did Obama open up his mouth about Christians being murdered, whether it be the Coptics in Egypt or in Nigeria? We just lost how many hundreds in Nigeria? And last year there were 500 women and children killed. Did Obama open up his mouth? Does Obama say anything about the Darfur genocide in the Sudan? Here you have Muslims killing 300,000 blacks. Anybody opening up their mouth about it? You just could go on throughout the entire Muslim community that's on the attack against Christians, and it's very clear there were at least 20% of the West Bank was Christian in 2000, and now with the last pope there, it's down to 2%. Either they had to escape to save their lives, or they've been murdered. So what is the point of what's going on here? Obama's policies are treacherous. He is a jihadist. He is supporting this Islamic Nazi movement out there, and he's jeopardizing Israel's security, and the Jews are still there to support him because he's black? I mean, have they completely lost their minds? And I say this not in terms of the people who are stuck on left-right politics. How dare anybody who claims that they are religious keep your mouth shut when this guy is leading a global attack on our faith? Why is Judaism, that's 5,000 years old and 2,000 years older than either Christianity or Islam, why are we playing second class in this whole thing? Why is the history of the Jews under the Temple Mount being destroyed by the Arabs and nobody opens up their mouth? How come the Jewish cemeteries that have been there for 3,000 years that are being totally wiped out in the worst way, no different than what the Nazis did with Jewish cemeteries in Europe, and everyone's keeping their mouth shut? And here you have Obama siding with the Allianz Nazi insurance. Allianz was Hitler's economic minister. Allianz was insuring the death camps and the Nazis. And now, only recently, here in Boca Raton, Allianz does a golf tournament out of profiteering monies stolen from Holocaust survivors who are doing a golf tournament in Boca, one of the largest Jewish communities, most wealthy Jewish community in the world, and they're keeping their mouth shut. I mean, what has happened to the Jewish community? Have you not learned a damn thing from 1938? This land for peace insanity, that you're going to negotiate your whole history, your whole covenant with God, everything that's happened for 5,000 years, all the people that have been murdered, and you're going to betray all of this for what? To elect a black man again who's there and determined to finish off Israel and finish off everybody. This guy is our enemy. And I'm saying this as a liberal Democrat. I cannot watch it one more second. And where's the religious community? You're allowing this menace to take place? You're daring to sit there and talk about, yeah, God will do it all for us. Why would God send the Mashiach to this madness within our own religion that will pray to Jerusalem 3 times a day, and yet it has had not one single rally in Jerusalem? We did Jerusalem with 200 people when the Pope was there to say, keep Jerusalem united. We took our message to 515 rallies already in the last 4 years. Keep Jerusalem united. If you divide Jerusalem, it's the end of Israel. If you allow a corridor between West Bank and Gaza, which is what Obama is supporting, no different than George W. Bush, okay? You're splitting Israel in half. That's the end of Israel. If you go back to 1967 borders, whatever that's all about, you're putting all the holy sites in the Jewish faith back into the hands of the Muslims, who have kept it for 1,700 years where Jews had no access, and are still not having any access. You're going to give us the burial place of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their wives, that no Jew could go up to the first 7 steps in 1,700 years. You're going to give that back. You're calling for an internationalization of Jerusalem, so all the holy sites are under the UN Nazis that are doing everything possible to yell and scream at Israel and say nothing about the terrorists, Muslim terrorists on any scale. If there was anything that Israel should do, is get out of the UN and form your own UN. What do you have to be a part of this madness for that's controlled by the Muslim countries and Arab oil? None of this makes any sense. By the way, Switzerland, that has the headquarters for the UN in Geneva, does not belong to the UN. What's the matter, Israel? You can't get along with somebody else? How about somebody who likes you? You're discovering the PCs, you're discovering the cell phones, you're discovering all these pharmaceutical things. The whole world depends on you, and you still keep on crawling for acceptance when you haven't even accepted yourself. And this whole stupid insanity since Oslo of 2 groups of people living together when you have one group committed to your and my death. What are we talking about here? Just read your Quran. You don't have to burn it. Read it and it says very plainly, all infidels have to be murdered. Don't you get it? So they're not just after Jews and not after Christians. They're after Hindus and Buddhists and everybody else. And they've had 20,000 attacks upon each other since 9/11. So how many tens of thousands of Muslims have been killed by the same maniacs? And you're going to trust them to do what? Make peace with them? Have you completely lost your mind? You only have 2 choices here. It's either you or them. You want to save yourself and save your loved ones, you have to fight back. But all this groveling and appeasement, to me, it's beyond disgraceful because it's repeating history. Did it work with the Nazis? No. All it did was lead to a massive bloodbath of unbelievable proportions that Obama says is equal to Muslim humiliation. What a coward. What an outrage. And the Jewish community keeps putting up with this. And by the way, who do you think Obama supports? The Holocaust survivors? No, he supports Allianz. He supports the very companies that have stolen money in the Holocaust on insurance policies. Where's the Jewish leadership? Where is anybody on this stuff? We're out there all the time protesting constantly to wake up and sound the alarm and tell everybody, what are you doing? What are you doing that you're allowing this danger again? Because now we're looking at Iran with a nuclear weapon that could have it within months, that Israel has to act on before the election. And here you have Obama once again saying through the State Department, oh, I'm going to even cut another $6-7 million on missile defense for Israel. While he's giving $30 billion to Saudi Arabia in sophisticated equipment. He's giving hundreds of millions in weaponry to other Arab countries. He's supporting the entire Islamic revolution out there, but the revolution is jihadist. It's not there for democracy because you cannot be compatible with Islam with democracy. They are totally foreign to each other. There is no such thing. Look at how the Muslims treat women. Look how they treat gays. You know, Iran says we have no gays because they keep hanging them. Saudi Arabia, that's responsible for 9/11, that's supposedly our bosom buddies, they cut the heads off of gays. This is the policy that Obama is going along with? And the liberal Jews are keeping their mouths shut about all of this? I mean, I'm beyond understanding what's going on, except I'm terrified for Israel's survival and America's survival, because we're not only off the deep track with this madness going on from the White House, with a foreign policy that is so bankrupt that the entire world is not only laughing at us, but doing everything possible to stick their finger in our eye, and we're sitting there playing this game? And then we're having this manipulation by all these Muslim Islamic Nazis who are going out there, taking over in one revolution after another all the oil to dominate and manipulate the entire economic scene on the planet. So while they're on the verge of their caliphate, Obama does everything possible supporting them and does everything possible to insult the Jewish community, keeps his mouth shut about Christians being murdered and everybody else being murdered. Tell me what we are electing. I would like to say something to the Republicans. I cannot stand it one more second. You don't even have a clue, Republicans, what's going on. You're still discussing contraception? You're worried about gay marriage? You think Al-Qaeda cares who's getting married? Have you people lost your minds? We're in great danger. And instead of focusing, you're into, we're going to save the fetus and abort the living. I cannot understand what the Republican Party is doing. To me, you've completely lost your minds. You have no idea what the focus is. And you're allowing this bum to get reelected again?
Is it the Republican Party or the Republican voters that are leading this?
The candidates, the voters, the party, the people with all the bucks, they haven't come out with one clean message yet. And they're giving this whole thing back to him again. So Obama can say, well, I'll have 5 more years to continue this.
But without a Republican candidate, how are you going to unseat Obama?
I agree. We're in deep trouble. We're in such hot water. I cannot believe what's going on. That's what makes me so petrified. Because we're facing a massive danger that is accumulating on a daily basis. Okay? I could barely get through the newspapers anymore because it's getting so intense. Okay? What is happening with the so-called sanctions against Iran that denies the Holocaust? Iran says, come on after us. We don't care. They've already cut off oil to 6 European countries. What do they care? Because China will pick it up, and Russia will pick it up, and India will pick it up. What do they care if 6 countries in Europe don't pick it up? Oh, what's the matter, Mr. Obama? Your influence isn't so great that China and Russia and India won't bend to your will? No, they don't care because they're looking in another direction. What are they worried about? By the way, all 3 of them have nuclear weapons, right? Why are they worried? Well, because as long as they're allied with Iran, they won't have a problem with Iran. Isn't that the issue? Okay, so why?
Do you think Obama's trying to pursue that same policy?
Yeah, but it's so faulty. It's beyond imagination. The point is, you can't make peace with somebody who wants to kill you. You have to make a decision. He's trying to say, oh, gee, if we'll have another discussion. Mr. Obama, this is not social work. We're dealing with Nazis, the same people who are allied with Hitler are in control of this entire movement. What is it that you don't get?
Would you talk more about that? When you call them Islamo-Nazis, what's the connection between Islamists and the Nazi movement?
It's very clear. The Mufti of Jerusalem was aligned with Hitler. He had 2 SS divisions, one in Bosnia, one in Palestine. By the way, for everybody who doesn't know, the Palestinians were actually the Jews. There were Palestinians who were the Jews, and there were Arabs before 1948. Okay? The British controlled the area. The British unraveled the San Remo Conference by the United Nations, which is to give what is now Jordan was supposed to be Israel, including what we have right now. So the British reneged on their entire policy, gave this whole land to Jordan. And by the way, that is Palestine in terms of the Arabs. It has nothing to do with us. Why are we having to divide Jerusalem and give it to the very people who are aligned with Hitler and at the same time dance in the streets after 9/11? And this is going to be your peace? This is your peace movement? Who are we dealing with? A boss who comes out with the most outrageous anti-Semitism, who goes and says, wait, we'll declare a state before the UN. We don't have to negotiate with the Jews. And by the way, whether it's Iran or it's the Mufti, they all had the same statement, including the present Mufti in Jerusalem, who said, kill all Jews. This is 2012. This is not 1938. We're in the same boat. Nothing has changed. We're dealing with the Islamic Nazis. And the very people who are committed to Israel's destruction are not just there for Israel. They want to kill all Jews. How do you have to explain this in English to the Jewish population before they will understand it? You want to say it in Yiddish? You want to say it in French? You want to say it in any language? What is it that you don't get? Why are you in such denial when the enemy tells you point blank, no different than what Hitler said, I'm going to destroy you? And they said, no, don't worry, it's not a problem. A few radicals, nothing will happen. They even voted for the bum. And then what happened? It was too late. And we're sitting there playing the same game over and over again. If you don't have any self-respect, nobody else is going to, in any relationship. Do you understand? In any relationship, whether it's your partner and your love or... but the Israelis want the world to love them, but they don't love themselves. How could you betray a 5,000-year history? How could you betray all the millions of people murdered because they were Jews, whether they were religious or not?
But if the Jewish establishment is following a policy of what they might consider realpolitik, that they have to live up to, or they have to get along with Obama out of fear.
Out of fear of what?
Out of fear that if he wins another 4 years, that they might not be able to have influence with him?
What influence? They've had zero influence. He keeps on stepping on us every single 5 minutes, and he hasn't stopped because of the weakness of and the appeasement of our Jewish leadership, which is appallingly disgusting. Okay? You want another 4 years after he's already dumped on us for the last 4 years? There's nothing there. What are you trying to mold out of? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. God forbid he gets reelected. Israel's finished and America's finished. This guy his agenda is way beyond just leftist. This is way beyond socialist and communist and Marxist and all this other crazy. This guy's a jihadist. Do you understand what that means? He is supporting a global caliphate. He's supporting anything the Muslims demand. He's there. How could he make an apology? How could he bow down to the king of Saudi Arabia? How could he do his campaign running around or apologizing for America's existence? If it wasn't for America, we'd all be speaking German. At what point do we decide that it's more important to understand what really is at stake here? Doesn't anybody understand that when you double the price of gas since he's been in office, and we could go to $4 or $5 and above, that we're facing a catastrophic situation economically? Who can survive this? We can't. We're just in a stage of recovery now, and we don't even know what that is all about. So the question here is, Wall Street will make a dime on everybody's misery. But here, what has Obama done? He's bailed out Wall Street. He's bailed out everybody that he can. He's getting all of his money from the big shots, and the Republicans don't know how to fight back. And meanwhile, Wall Street is taking over on every single scale, and Main Street is suffering. So what is the point of all of this? How could you still have, after 4 years, 8% unemployment? I don't understand where the public is at on any of this stuff here. So he gives his buddy one little break after another, and meanwhile, we're all struggling. And then the question here is, how are we going to get through this? If Iran were to attack and do something else like 9/11, sponsored by the Saudis, okay, how could we survive this economically? We can't. We'd be in such a danger and a disaster of biblical proportions. The question is, the American public is supporting Israel. I know we're out in the streets more than anybody on the planet. We know where the public is at. The question is, why is the Jewish community putting this man there further? And then the question is, why isn't the Jewish community applying pressure to the Republicans to get out of their closets and stop dealing with nonsense? Get to the point of what is going on here. I think look, not since the Holocaust, and including all the Arab wars, have I ever felt this fear. I'm just telling you right now. A nuclear confrontation, something with biological and chemical warfare, with Iran with its missile testing, with Iran pushing in the button every 5 seconds, with Iran saying we must eliminate Israel, it's the pariah on the planet, and then we have every university with the let's boycott Israel, and let's delegitimize Israel, and let's take all the money from Israel, and where's the Jewish community? They've been doing this for 9 years. Where's the Jewish community response? They're sitting there passive, in denial that anything is wrong. But the enemy understands this is weakness. As much as Obama apologizing is weakness. And the more you're weak, the more they're going to take advantage. And this culture we're fighting understands only one thing. If you'll fight back, they'll back off. But if you keep your mouth shut and you will let them in, they will take over. And it's as simple as that. The Nazis even had to close down the death camps when the inmates fought back. You understand? And when the Jews fought back, the Nazis didn't like it. But as long as the Jews were willing to walk into the gas chambers and go to their death, that's what they depended on.
And is the complacency, you think, or the appeasement mentality of the American or Anglo-Jewish leadership, you think, leading to the same end result?
Of course. And by the way, this is no different than the same leadership in America during the Holocaust. Where were they?
How do you mean? Keeping us
Did they have one demonstration? Did they open up their mouth? Did B'nai B'rith even boycott Germany? No, we're afraid if we boycott Germany in the middle of the mass extermination of Jews, we'll have all this anti-Semitism against us. Talk about the insanity of the Jewish cup. I don't understand it anymore. And who appointed these guys the chiefs? When you have the American Jewish Congress and the Anti-Defamation League siding with Allianz, a Nazi insurance company, against Holocaust survivors, what are you talking about? Because Allianz is willing to pay off Jewish groups to keep their mouth shut? Aha. Oh, of course. That's what's going on here. So we're not supposed to take care of Holocaust survivors in their 80s and 90s who are 50% are in poverty and suffering badly and have no income? This is what we do to our own fellow Jews? If that's how we're going to treat our elderly after what they went through, why would anybody treat us with respect as a group? Israel, where are you in all of this? Okay? If you honor, you have to act like Jews. That's not being Jewish to do this. Okay? And if you don't want to be Jews, and you don't want to protect what is Jewish, I'll tell you what, let's do a reverse Aliyah. You can go to Greenland, be and do whatever the hell you want. Go back to Europe. You know, you could take Helen Thomas's reaction. Go back to Germany and Poland, right? But whatever you do, don't stay in Israel, the Holy Land, and then rip off everything that's holy. Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, you tell the Arab world, recognize the Jewish state, and we're saying, Bibi, why don't you recognize the Jewish state? Why don't you behave like a Jew instead of a schlump? What is your problem? Okay? Just get off this high stand that you're willing to tell the world that everybody has to recognize the Jewish state, and meanwhile you're giving up everything Jewish. Judea and Samaria, we've been occupying for 5,000 years. We have a covenant with God. It's just that simple. Okay? The people who are into the revisionist movement that say, oh, there was no Holocaust, who are they? The Arabs. Deny their role in the Holocaust, deny there was a Holocaust, but want Ahmadinejad with Iran to finish the job. And what do we have? It doesn't matter if it's Harvard or University of Pennsylvania or Columbia. They're sitting there recognizing all of America's enemies and Israel's enemies and giving them not only a cover, they're giving them a forum and a platform. What is going on here? When is anybody going to open up their mouth and fight back? Well, Shalom International, that's what we're doing. We've been doing it for 4.5 years. And we did it in the Vatican, and we did it in Geneva, Durban too, and we did it in New York at the United Nations. In fact, our last demonstration was move UN Nazis to Gaza. What are we paying this tab for? I don't get it.
Which tab?
To the United Nations. What is this? Yeah, why? Why are we picking up any part of it? UNRWA, which is one of the United Nations groups, is demanding that the burial place of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their wives, and Rachel's tomb and everything that's Jewish and holy has to go back to the Arabs. Who are they to make that statement? Who is the United Nations to attack our faith? They're only there to protect Islam, but nobody else. Why are we picking up the tab for this? Get them out of here. What do we need it for? It's not a prestige issue, not from my perspective. Okay? Israel has enough going for it. Form your own UN. How about the people who actually like Israel? There's a lot of people who do. If Israel would stand up already and find some courage and find a few cojones in the whole process here, you know, when they fought back, they had world respect. But this groveling gets no respect. Certainly not from me. And the rest of the world that hates Israel right now is looking at this and saying, why aren't you resisting? Or you're guilty. Everything they're saying is true. You must be guilty. If you keep your mouth shut, you're guilty. If you fight back, maybe you have something going for you. Our Jewish leadership is a zero. And who are these people?
Who are they?
Well, who are they? The people came up with big bucks and took a title and all of a sudden represent what? Even Federation is only 10% of the Jewish community. Okay? So where's the rest? Who's representing the Jewish community? We're out there all the time. We have signs that demand keep Jerusalem united, fight terrorism, support Israel, protect and defend America and Israel. We're out there every single week. For 3 years, we've been every Tuesday in front of the Federal Building in Fort Lauderdale when we had 300 Muslims screaming Jews into the ovens. Yeah? You want to play this game again? We fought back. We took over. We've been there. They don't show up anymore. How do you like that?
How about in Washington? Where else do you demonstrate?
We've been at the AIPAC. We've gone after Code Pink. We're saying to AIPAC, will you find also a pair of colonies? Would you find some Jewishness amongst you? What, you're more concerned that the White House is willing to address you? I remember when we protested at AIPAC, Obama, when he was running for election, day one says, yes, I support a united Jerusalem. The very next day he reverses himself. Not a word out of AIPAC. What is this madness? We have begged AIPAC, why don't you get out in the streets? No different than the opposition to you. But you know what the Jewish attitude is? Oh, we don't recognize the Nazis. We don't give them any press. Well, I got news for you. The Nazis always get press. Where is your press? I'd like to say that with every contribution that Israel has made and the Jewish people have made to the world humanity, when it comes to propaganda, they are the worst in the history of the universe. They do not know how to describe who they are. They have no clue on how to tell everybody what's going on.
The Israelis.
The Israelis or the Jews. I don't understand where they're coming from. Doesn't matter. They form the same ghetto mentality for thousands of years, which is keep by yourself, don't open up your mouth, don't make waves, and everything will be all right, and God will work it out. Well, it doesn't work that way. God helps those that helps themselves.
Do you have an organization that American Jews can support for you to have more influence?
Go to defendjerusalem.net. You can make donations there. The group is called Shalom International. We're a Jewish organization. We have a lot of Christian support, but we also have everybody that supports us. If we have one or two negatives every time we're out demonstrating, it's a miracle. Most of the time we have no negatives. So everybody downtown Fort Lauderdale during rush hour knows who we are. And we get the snowbirds, and we get the international tourists, and we get the locals. We even have people who are homeless that come out every Tuesday and give us support, who are Christian. They don't ask us anything. We don't ask anything. We're here to support American Israel. They're on our side. Isn't that a revelation? Isn't that a mitzvah to know that we have this kind of energy cooking within the community? Okay? But we need to understand that there are opportunities now that we are on a very short time frame. Israel has a short window to deal with Iran. It may have to do it before the summer, and certainly before both national conventions. So we're asking everybody, the National Convention with the Republicans is in August. On August 26th, come meet us in Tampa, and if you know how to blow a shofar, bring it. We'd like to get 500 to 1,000 shofars, make a statement, sound the alarm. That's part of the election. And then repeat it a week later in Charlotte, North Carolina, when the Democratic Convention is taking place. But I have a feeling all of this is going to come to a head way before either convention, that we're going to have to make some very drastic decisions. We may have a total crisis and a half going on in the middle of all of this. And what I don't understand is Obama is making some very dangerous moves. You know, he signed into law what was passed by Congress already this January, which is anybody that could be accused of being a terrorist and be incarcerated and not be put to trial. This is an extremely dangerous and fascist move. It's already law. Do we understand what's going on here? Are we planning another crisis? I hate to get paranoid, but it sure is easy these days. Okay? The fact is, if you read the daily paper, you're looking at one horror after another. Much more than we ever have seen before, and on a daily basis. And it's getting extreme and out of control, but nobody's in charge except to keep on allowing it. So are we facing a catastrophe right around the corner because nobody's in charge and nobody wants to admit we're in great and deep danger? And I think the Jewish leadership has failed us miserably. I think the religious institutions have failed us miserably. How can you possibly pray to Jerusalem 3 times a day and keep your mouth shut about what's going on here when you're being attacked and your faith is being attacked on every single level? It makes no sense whatsoever. You're damaging the issue of who we are as Jews and our whole history. So, you know...
How close do you feel we are to a catastrophe if Obama wins?
Oh, then there's nothing that stops him because he has 5 years to finish us off. He's already done great damage. He refused to allow Israeli scientists to come in. He just now took off $6 to $7 million off of missile defense for Israel. He constantly has Susan Rice in the United Nations yelling and screaming that Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, these are settlements, this is outrageous, Israel's all at fault. It's always our fault, okay? The Arabs can do no wrong. No matter how many Jews they kill, they can do no wrong. So when you have the State Department with Hillary playing this role, and, you know, Hillary came out and said to the Jews, don't have babies in Judea and Samaria. In our Holy Land, don't make babies. And then Abbas with Fatah says, oh, by the way, our state will have no Jews in it. We will be Jew-free. Please tell me the difference between that and Hitler's statement of being Jew-free in Europe. Can you please explain that? And this is what our administration is supporting, and the Jewish leadership keeps its mouth shut.
Tell me, if it's okay with this administration and the two-state solution people that a Palestine would be Jew-free, shouldn't Israel be justified in keeping it Muslim-free?
The question is, you're not going to have two states. The answer really is you federate West Bank with Jordan, you federate Gaza with Egypt. If you need another state, put it in the Sinai. You can give them waterfront property, but you don't take our Jewish history and faith and split it up and give it to these Islamic Nazis. It's just that simple. Okay? The Muslims that want to live with the Jews, it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But what about the recent fires that were in Haifa? And here you had Arabs in the streets, not in Gaza, not in West Bank, but up in Haifa, dancing in the streets, watching the whole place burn up. What does that tell you? You know, we're sitting with people who have to make a decision. Either they want to live together in peace, then you can have peace. But if they're committed to your death, you have to make a decision. It's you or them. And that's really where it's at. So here you have a boss talking out of both sides of his mouth, no different than Arafat, stealing billions of dollars given to him by the countries around the world, hoping for something that's going to be different. And the Arab world playing this game, keep everybody in refugee camps, let them suffer because that's their symbol of, you know, the tyranny of the Jew, keeping these poor people oppressed. Well, who told the Arabs to leave in the first place? You go. Their fellow Arabs said, no, go, don't worry about it. We'll throw the Jews into the sea.
During the War of 48.
1948, but it didn't stop there. Every time the Arabs went and attacked, it was the same issue. We'll kill the Jews, we'll kill the Jews, we'll kill the Jews. Well, somehow or another, we've survived with God's help. In fact, after 5,000 years, with God's help, we're still surviving. One thing you have to say about the Muslims, at least when they're ready to kill you, they scream Allah Akbar. With the Jews, we're still having a debate. Is there a God? After 5,000 years of getting through this. Okay?
But would a Palestinian state, you think, bring peace to Israel?
There's no such thing as a Palestinian state. It's already there in Jordan. The only answer is you federate the West Bank with Jordan, Gaza with Egypt. You don't take Judea and Samaria and split it up and split Jerusalem, because then you're splitting the Jewish faith and the Jewish history and the Jewish identity and our covenant with God, and you're betraying everybody murdered for being a Jew. Then you have no standing whatsoever. That's Bibi's problem. He doesn't even know the difference between right and wrong. It's no different than leaving the death camps, which are the world's largest Jewish cemeteries, in the hands of the very people who deny the Holocaust, want to revise it, want to commercialize it. What's the point? If you have no self-respect, if you're not going to show any respect, that's what being a Jew is all about. You have to remember, and you have to make sure it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, all we're doing is repeating history on another scale. So today we'll do it with cell phones. You know, a much faster opportunity to kill as many Jews as possible. But they're not limiting it to Jews. The whole point is Christians are being murdered. Where's the scream on Christians being murdered? So far, I'm the only Jew out there talking about it. Where's our Jewish leadership for them?
Now, when you say you're the only Jew talking about it, we have interviewed you during Obama's campaign in 2008 when he came to speak in Boca, Florida, and there was no Jewish opposition to his appearance except for you.
That's it.
At APAC, when he comes to speak at APAC, and there's very little Jewish opposition except for you.
Yes.
You're consistent in being out there and strong.
But not just against Obama. Don't forget we protested against George W. Bush.
How?
We had 16 demonstrations at the White House against Bush.
Proving what?
On the exact same issues. What Obama is really Bush 3, only worse. The same policies that Bush adopted from the very get-go with Saudi Arabia, Obama's picked up and gone even more extreme. Mm-hmm. Nothing has changed. And all he's done is picked up from the Jewish left, the same crazies who said, gee, Oslo, land for peace. Well, land for peace was Hitler's issue, wasn't it? We'll give up Czechoslovakia, we'll give up the Sudetenland. There's Chamberlain with his little peace at any time and any price. Peace in our time, right? And then we had World War II and 60 million dead and 67 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust. That's what we got for land for peace. So we're stuck with the same insanity because the Jewish left has no conscience, I'm sorry to have to say, okay? There isn't a Nazi they won't support because they want the right to support it. The right of a Nazi to have full and total First Amendment rights. You understand? Hollywood just gave an Academy Award to the Iranians over the Israelis, right? And what did the Iranian government come out and say? Oh, it's really very simple. It's in today's news clippings. Well, we have a total victory over the Zionist Israelis. The Iranian government made this statement because Hollywood backed a film from Iran over a film from Israel. Mm-hmm. Okay. So once again, the Jews ate crow because they decided they wanted to play the game. Well, maybe the film was better, or maybe it wasn't. But the politics out of Hollywood is the Jews who control Hollywood are not proud to be Jews because they're the ones who got Obama elected. And they're the ones that are endangering Israel and America's survival.
Purely by supporting Obama.
There's no question in my mind. And I could tell you something. We have a lot of blacks that support us. They're afraid to open up their mouth inside their community because of the intimidation. They'll come over to us. They've even contributed to us. Okay? Total strangers coming over and saying they're on our side because they understand the danger that Obama has presented to them, which is the highest unemployment is in the black community. The highest foreclosures are in the black community. The highest everything that's a disaster is in the black community. So how can they keep on supporting somebody just because he's black? I mean, no matter where you turn, this guy's trouble. And yet people are willing to say, oh, but he doesn't have enough time. We have to give more. We'll give him another 5 years, another 5 years like the last 4. We can't make it. There's no way. Because he's empowering our enemies. He's not stopping our enemies. Just because he got Osama bin Laden, finally. Do you know how many people had to die before he made the decision? With all the attacks from the Islamics to each other? There are thousands of people that died before he made a decision. Well, I'm glad Osama is gone. Thank God. I'm glad that Gaddafi is gone. Thank God. But what have we replaced it with? That's
Al-Qaeda in Iraq?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Iran, which is controlling Syria, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, Iraq, Afghanistan. Does anybody... The whole 9 yards. Okay? And what is Iran? Iran is number 2 or number 3 in oil in the world. next to Saudi Arabia. So here you have the Shia Muslims versus Saudi Arabia with the Sunni Muslims. Okay? Who's going to dominate? And both of them are poison. And we're victims of all of it. Who's supporting all of this Wahhabi religion insanity and all these attacks? Saudi Arabia. And by the way, every dime you give into pay a bigger price on the gas tank goes to the very countries that are wanting to do us in. Have you all figured that out yet? It's so simple. And since when has the State Department not sided with Arab oil over Jewish blood? It's been going on before the Holocaust. So we're sitting with the same menace. The problem is, did we learn anything from the Holocaust? And I would say our leadership has betrayed us completely across the board.
And when you say leadership, who in particular are you referring to?
American Jewish Congress, Federation of Presidents, the federations altogether. Obama met with 14 Jewish organizations to discuss how to divide Jerusalem and sell it to the Jewish community. All of those people are traitors in our eyes, okay, from Federation on down, okay? There's a situation going on right now with the JCC up in New York for the Israel Day Parade that'll be in June, right? Okay, they're allowing Jewish groups who want to boycott Israel and dump on Israel into the parade. We just had a situation in Orlando with bringing in a imam in Orlando to a Holocaust center. This man not only says that 9/11 was created by the U.S., an inside job, but has supported Hamas and raised money for him. But here we have a Jewish group bringing this whole scene together, giving this guy cover, giving him a forum. And it just goes on and on and on and on, no matter where you turn. Who's in opposition? Where are the campuses opening up their mouth and resisting this Muslim takeover of the campuses? Where is it? The more the Jews keep quiet, the worse it gets.
And what do you think of groups like Stand With Us and the Israel Project in terms of Jewish activist leadership?
We need more of it. I have nothing against them. They're great. We just need to have a lot more. Okay? They represent, like we represent, a small fraction. But I would say that the visibility that we have in the grassroots community, the number of people we see, is a very good indication from our marketing point of view that the public is overwhelmingly on our side. If we show up, we get their support. If we don't show up, it's business as usual. But the point is, Israel should be having a 24/7 Al Jazeera where we tell our side of the story. What are we depending on? CNN and the New York Times and the BBC to lie about everything that we're doing and to misrepresent us, and then we complain about it instead of doing our own thing. Where's our media? The Nazis always get press. Where's our press? Why are we telling our story? I had an argument with a guy up in Boca Raton who came from Israel. He says, "Oh, this is the whole area. We have a root of everything in history and everything, and this is what we're doing, and we're growing wineries in the middle of the desert, and this is one miracle after another." I said, "This is fantastic. I'm so glad that you're here for another check. And by the way, why couldn't you put this on video and send it all over the world? You had to make a trip here just to get a few checks? Why don't you document what you're talking about? Why don't you you're inventing the technology the enemy is using against us, but you won't tell your own story. On this type of video, on this type of media, get the word out to everybody. What is your problem?" It's like a disconnect. I spent 3 weeks organizing to get 200 people with chauffeur blowers and everything when the Pope was there. We had no problem whatsoever, except the Jews didn't understand what I was talking about. I said to the Israelis, "You have 1,000 press covering the Pope. It's a freebie. Why don't you come out and make a statement about who you are?" I had no problem doing it. I've done it twice already. I've had hundreds of press in Israel. Not the Israeli press. No, God forbid. I had the world press was there, but not the Israeli press. What does that tell you? Well, they want to give everything up. They think they're so great, liberal, and everyone will love them like the Euro trash. They could be just like. What is their point? And here we were making news. We took on the Pope, took it right even to the Vatican. Right to the Vatican. I had no problem in Italy. I had no problem right in front of the Vatican. I held up a big sign.
Saying,
"Keep Jerusalem united." I had no problem. What is the Jewish community leadership problem?
would you call for changes in the management of the Jewish organizations?
I would say anybody who gives any Jewish organization a dime that wants to divide Jerusalem, that you are contributing to the destruction of the Jewish nation and the Jewish people. If you want to pay for that and play that game, it's on your head.
And would you apply that to all major establishment, ADL even?
ADL is the worst.
Really?
ADL is the worst. We had a dozen Nazis from Palm Beach come here to the Holocaust Memorial in 1992. Okay? And we said to Federation and ADL, what are you going to do about it? They say there was no Holocaust. Oh, we don't give the Nazis any press. I said, the Nazis always get press. Where's our press? So we organized an opposition to them. ADL and the Federation went from condo to tell people, don't come to this rally, which, by the way, was on Shabbos. Okay? And we organized so well that we had the Orthodox stay at hotels so that they could walk over. We had 5,000 people. We had no violence. We did 60 media interviews. And Federation was so upset with us, they tried to do a rally down the street, and nobody came to their rally. And then when it was over, we said to the Nazis, look, we only had 3 months to organize. Could you please come back next year? Give us a chance. We had 5,000 people. We had gays. We had blacks. We had Cubans. We had Holocaust survivors. We had, you name it, showed up. And we had a catharsis in our community of people who said, wow, we're opposing this hate. And everybody came together. And you want to know what the Federation and the ADL was all about, how they were screaming? They were worried we were so successful we would get the checks. That's their number one concern, feeding this insanity, which is stuffing their pockets and not doing what they're getting paid to do, which is to really represent who we are as Jews.
Do you sense a rivalry among Jewish charitable organizations?
They're all in rivalry. But I would say to the Jewish community, especially here in South Florida and anywhere else, you find out what their position is on Israel and what their position is on Jerusalem. And if they want to divide it, don't give them a check. Tell them to take a walk. It's just that simple.
Are you saying a Palestinian state is untenable?
Without question. There is no such thing.
And any organization that supports a Palestinian state, you're saying is?
A Palestinian state that takes over Israel, yeah, I would oppose it on every scale.
Well, no, alongside Israel is what they contend.
There is no such animal. That's an invention. That's another PR stunt out of Hollywood. Doesn't exist. In order to have a good neighbor, you have to have a good neighbor. What, do you want to live next to that thing? Do you know how many attacks go on every single day in Jerusalem, all over Israel, every single day by our great so-called neighbors? Every single day, people are being murdered and killed. Why don't we hear about it? Because we're so busy trying to make peace and do social work that we're sitting there with the Nazis and saying, gee, why don't you, I'll tell you what, we'll give you everything you want if you'll just leave us alone. And they look at this as such utter stupidity and weakness.
The Arabs look at it.
Oh, without question. All we're doing is moving them closer and closer. So eventually you'll be right on the border. So, and by the way, don't think this is an issue that isn't real right now. Fatah and Hamas have gotten in bed with each other. There is a marriage brewing. And don't think that Ramallah won't be just like Gaza. So now you're only a few miles from Ben Gurion Airport. You're only a few miles from Jerusalem. You're only a few miles from Tel Aviv. You know, and Hezbollah is north with 40,000 missiles against Haifa. And how many thousands of rockets have come out? Let me ask you something. Between L.A. and San Diego, which is still a little distance, right?
3 hours.
3 hours, okay. Miami to Fort Lauderdale is half hour, okay? If we had one missile come over, would we tolerate the second missile? But Israel sits there and takes not one, but 15,000 to play this game. So you put your entire community under this insanity of watching missiles flying in and out, whether your family is going to survive or not, or your business or your home. You put people through this mental insanity to do what? Accommodate Obama and Bush?
Or the UN and the EU.
And all of them support the Islamic Nazi. So what's the point? They're all controlled by Arab and Muslim oil. What's your point? Either you have self-respect and you believe that this is what God gave us and said, and by the way, there is no Christianity and there is no Islam without the Old Testament. Do you understand that? Okay? If God spoke to, and here's the first issue. The first issue we don't even want to talk about. What does Islam say? Islam says that Abraham was willing to sacrifice Ishmael, not Isaac, okay, for his faith. And by the way, we're 2,000 years older than Islam. So we're willing to go with that lie to begin with in order to say, oh, wait a minute, gee, they're just a wonderful, peaceful religion. No problemo. Well, there is a problemo, because they've not only rearranged their own faith, they're rearranging everybody else's faith. The point is, there's nobody else's faith that exists except for them. You don't meet their accommodation, you're an infidel, you're dead. So all those great, wonderful liberals would be the first to go after inviting him in. But the point is, they're such cowards, because all the people they want everyone else to live with, they wouldn't invite into their own home, would they? It's okay as long as somebody else has to deal with the problem. That's the liberal mind. You know, we're still doing social work. Ain't going to work anymore. You have to make a decision. You want to survive, you have to understand what the enemy is. And this enemy was part of Hitler. This enemy negotiated. Do you know that I went to I've been to 31 death camps. One of the death camps I went to was Theresienstadt in the Czech Republic, right. There's a museum there. And I was there in 1992, 95. And my organization, Shalom International, by the way, in 1995, we had a 20-foot banner that said, "Purge, extradite, and prosecute all Nazi murderers." And I called the Jewish organizations and I said, we'd like to be at the 50th anniversary of the liberation of these death camps with this banner. I'm still waiting for their phone call. So instead I went to the Polish government, the German government, and the Austrian government. I said, we have a 20-foot banner. This is what it says. I'd like to be at each one of these death camps commemorations. So they went to the survivor organizations, and each one gave us permission to be there. I would like to tell you that was a whole experience and a half. Okay? And nobody could get to any one of these ceremonies without going through our banner and our statement. I wasn't there to do another memorial. I wanted to know, for example, at Auschwitz-Birkenau, where millions of Jews were slaughtered, okay, why crosses were being put on, why there was a disco allowed, why the nunnery was allowed. And by the way, out of 4,000 people that committed this mass murder, only 50 were put on trial. What happened to the other murderers? And I went through every camp with the exact same scenario. Okay? I was at the Bundestag, which is their parliament at that time in Bonn, when they were doing a whole thing on what happened in the official end of World War II. We asked permission, we were allowed. I was at the official end of World War II commemoration with the 4 big countries at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin with our banner. I asked permission, they gave it to me. It was an amazing experience. And I met survivors, and then I had to deal with so much of the German attitude, who liberated the camp first, the survivors or the Americans. It was just insane politics, but it was an amazing experience. And one of the women at the Bundestag came to me, she says, "Why aren't you in Israel?" I said, "I haven't made that decision yet." She says, "You need to go there because it's all going to happen again." This is 1995. I never forgot that.
And where was she from?
Germany. I was right in Bonn, Germany, at this major event going on.
Right.
Okay, and I mention this in the context of the problem is not just the U.S. Jewish community, the international Jewish community, all these federation types, everywhere it's the same story.
France.
It doesn't matter. When we did in 1992, we had remember the Holocaust, when the G7 world leaders were meeting in Munich, Germany for the first time. And our organization, we organized a memorial at the Olympics in Munich, where the massacre had taken place in '72. Mm-hmm. We did a 17-mile march to Dachau. We had a memorial service for all the death camps. We invited the world leaders to be there. And don't you know, the Jewish leadership decided on the very day that we were doing our event, they would hold their annual event to make sure there would be fewer Jews that showed up. Meanwhile, we got 100 media. We had 500 people. We did a dignified service, and we made a statement. But the Jewish leadership was so appalled that somebody else would dare to ask them to take responsibility, to open up their mouth, because at that time, this was 2 years after reunification, there were already 20,000 new Nazi attacks. They kept their mouth shut about that too. Now it's in the hundreds of thousands, because they keep their mouth shut. When are you going to take a stand? When are you going to fight back? How many times do you have to go through this madness? You know, don't just say never again and just, be a public relations stunt. You have to put the substance behind it. And if you're going to abandon the survivors and abandon the whole process of what led to the Holocaust, you're going to repeat it. And that's what's happening right now. That's why I'm so terrified, because we're sitting on the verge of the next Holocaust. From Hitler to Hamas to Iran, the Holocaust continues. And who's pushing it? Obama, EU, UN, and our Jewish leadership keeps its mouth shut. And where is Bibi? Where is Bibi?
Well, isn't he between a rock and a hard place?
No, there's no rock and hard place. There is no such thing. I'm sorry. You don't compromise who you are as an individual, because then you have nothing to stand for. If you don't like yourself, who is going to like you? You don't have to compromise anything. If you don't want to defend being Jewish and our 5,000-year history, and by the way, that's the difference between Bibi and us. The Jewish leadership thinks that Israel's 64 years of age, and we say Israel's 5,000 years of age. Two different processes. Two different stories. And by the way, every time we explain it from the 5,000-year level, nobody argues with us, nobody complains, even the left doesn't know how to respond. But if we stay on the 64-year level, we're always playing defense. If we're on the 5,000-year level, we're playing offense. Best defense is a good offense. May I suggest football logic?
Well, but he's playing a complex chess game, a three-way chess game right against the EU and the Arab world.
Let me tell you something. The whole world needs Israel. Your cell phones, your PCs, your pharmacies, your military. There's a ton of stuff Israel's creating. Israel has more patents than any country in the world next to the U.S. Okay? So the world needs Israel. Israel does not have to compromise an inch in terms of who it is as a Jewish state. And what does that mean? Here's our 5,000-year history. We don't have to play that game. The game has been brought to us by the liberal left that wants to dump on the religious community and has no self-respect for itself. What are we going to do?
So in terms of young people who are looking for some inspiration for Jewish pride, you've lived your whole life trying to fight for Jewish pride.
Yeah.
What would you say to the young people today? Abandon ship?
Oh, no. Well, abandon the people who told you not to fight back. I would say, don't be a coward. Get into your faith. This is a hell of a religion. And we have one hell of a history. And our history is the history of the world. And don't compromise. Okay, we paid a heavy price to be Jews. You cannot betray any of that. In the Orthodox community, during the Yom Kippur service, the afternoon service, the Musaf service, is a poem about the 10 martyrs. Okay? And here, the tyrant comes to the jewels of the faith and says, what is the penalty for selling your brother into slavery? And they uniformly say, the penalty is death. So the tyrant says, I'm going to make you pay for what Joseph's brothers did thousands of years earlier in selling him into slavery in Egypt. And so they asked the key rabbi, go to heaven and say, is this what God wants? And God says, I'll tell you what, it's real simple. If you believe, you'll make the ultimate sacrifice. And if you don't believe, I'll wipe you out in the beginning. The principle is you can't sell your brother into slavery because the penalty is death. If these leaders right now want to play out the role of the Judenrats that sold out their fellow Jews to get into the gas chambers, they will be paying the heavy price just like they did previously. You understand? There is no difference. You have to make that decision that you have to save what few Jews exist. There's only 14, 15 million of us. Okay? So why does the world hate us? What's the big deal? If there's 1.5 billion Muslims out there, why are we such a threat? Because our faith keeps us strong. It's kept us surviving. That every tyrant that came after us, Haman, Hitler, Hamas, same craziness, okay? We've gone through this for thousands of years and we're still here. Doesn't it tell you something? So the point to the youth is, get an understanding of what your faith is all about, because it's really an amazing faith. And then in spite of every attempt to murder us and kill us and misrepresent us and everything, look at how we've helped to advance civilization on every level, whether it be the 10 Commandments or all of our creativity or the music and the zillion things that Jews are involved with. Why? Because our education, our faith, our family, these are strong factors, and these are role model factors, okay? And we don't have to play second fiddle to anybody. On the other hand, we don't have to lose our identity. as Jews. Feel good about it. What is the problem? Okay? We have a great and strength-oriented thing. And I'll say one thing, at least the Muslims, as I repeated, when they're ready to kill you, scream Allah Akbar.
And in this case, you think Jews ought to be sounding the rallying cry for self-defense?
Not just self-defense, it's a matter of survival. This is way beyond just self-defense. We have to understand we have an enemy that's dangerous, that's coming after us. Again, it's part of what happened before. They never gave up. All they have seen is when you're appeasing and weak, they're going to come after you stronger. If you fight back and resist and don't betray who you are as an individual and as a Jew and our whole history and everything we've struggled and how we overcame all of this, if you don't abandon those basic principles of what it is to be a Jew, that's the strength the world will admire, and that's the strength we have to go into battle with. What's the matter? We don't want God on our side? That's not our arsenal? I don't understand where the left is coming from. They've tried everything else. It's been a massive failure. Now what? What's wrong with God on our side? How about God as our ammunition? What's the problem?
Do you think God will judge people based on how they defend his reputation and his image in this world?
Oh, yeah, without question. It says right there in the Bible, after we left, brought us out of Egypt, brought us out of slavery into liberation, says right there exactly where each tribe is supposed to stay. Says it right there. Okay? Well, who are we to deny what God said? It's written. My question is, why are the Jews still wandering? What, 40 years wasn't enough? Get a hold of it already. God didn't want anybody from Egypt into the Holy Land. He wanted freedom. He didn't want slavery. Why are the Jews adopting slavery again?
How are they adopting slavery?
Because this appeasement is nothing more than slavery. Okay. Giving away what God gave us after all of this struggle. We have the #1 prize in the world that everybody wants, which is Jerusalem, and there are Jews actually recommending it. No, split. Give it up. Don't worry. Be happy. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen, because it's the end of Israel. And here we have the #1 prize the Vatican wants. Everybody wants it, except for the Jews. What's your problem? Can't you be a winner? What, are you afraid to be a winner? So you're a slave. You're still in Egypt. Did you ever get the hell out of Egypt already?
You're saying fight for Jewish pride.
It's more than just Jewish pride. There's a whole scene to being a Jew. Every time I read any of the Hebrew books, for Shabbos or anything, I'm always amazed at what's written there. I'm always amazed how many times we keep referring to Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. And by the way, the Quran doesn't mention Jerusalem once. But our Bible mentions it 700 times. We face Jerusalem. The Muslims turn their back to Jerusalem. Why are we giving up this to them? For what? All we're doing is breaking our relationship with God. If you do that, what's your point? So Allah is better than our God? Is that what you're telling me?
And when you go face to face with the Muslims on the protest and rally lines, what do you say?
I don't change my story. I tell them I've been on Al Jazeera 4 or 5 times. I tell them the exact same thing I'm telling you. Whatever time they give me, I go right for the jugular. We've been there 5,000 years. We'll be there another 5,000 years, God willing. Nothing to negotiate. Federate West Bank with Jordan, Gaza with Egypt. You're not taking our holy land. This is our faith. I don't insult you with your religion. Don't insult me with mine. End of story. And by the way, you want to have peace? We'll have peace. But if you don't want to have peace, I have to kill you first. You got that? I went to the Democratic Convention in Denver. A Muslim guy comes over to me and says, I just converted to Islam. I said, wonderful. He says, and by the way, we have to kill all Jews. So I thought for a second. Well, by the way, we weren't screaming at each other. We're talking very nicely. I said, oh, very interesting. I guess you leave me no choice. It's either you or me. I have to kill you first if I want to survive. Is that it? Is that all there is? And he backed off. We weren't yelling or screaming. He said to me, I have to kill all Jews. The Mufti of Jerusalem, I have to kill all Jews. the mullahs in Iran, I have to kill all Jews. Do you understand? So until the Jews wake up and realize that we actually have people who want to kill us, they're living in la la land, and, denial's not just a river. We have to come to the conclusion that the very people who are aligned with Hitler want to finish the job. So wake up and save your ass in the process. Am I allowed to say that? Oh, tuchus, excuse me.